Prime Minister, thank you for joining GB News in a pub in Nottingham today. Great to see you.
Thank you. Chris, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Week 6 of a 6-week campaign. You were definitely up for the fight in that debate last night. Where's that Rishi Sunak been for the past 5 weeks? Always been there?
It's always been there. And you know what? When you're fighting for what you believe in, it's easy. And that's what I'm doing in this campaign. I think the choice facing the country is incredibly important. Now, I get that people have some frustrations with me, with our party, but this isn't a by-election. Right? This is a choice about the future of our country. It's going to have enormous consequences for everyone, their family, their finances. I don't want to see people subject to Labour's tax rises, so I'm fighting very hard to say, give me the opportunity to keep cutting your taxes, building on the progress we made. That's a choice I want people to focus on. Yeah. That's what you saw last night at the debate.
And it worked, apparently, according to the pollsters say it did bring back some people who are against you to be more in favour of voting Tory. So
well, I think, look, what people saw last night is Keir Starmer just does not have a plan for government. On the economy, no answers. On immigration, absolutely no answers.
Well, 9 times
welfare,
you asked him on
he can't tell you what he's going to do. I've got a very clear plan for what I'm going to do with illegal migrants. They don't get to stay in our country. They should be removed. He can't tell you what he's going to do. On welfare, the guy thinks that you can't make a penny of savings from the welfare budget. That's just clearly not right. That's why I want to build on the progress we've made, cut people's taxes, and last night people could see the choice very clearly.
We'll come to those areas in a minute. You use the word surrender 17 times. Is that a loaded word? Is that to appeal to reform UK voters? Why the word surrender?
I don't want people to surrender to Labour. I don't want them to surrender to their tax rises. I don't want people to surrender our borders to Labour, our welfare system to Labour, our national security to Labour. Right? I'm up for the fight. I want people to join me in that fight. Like, we should not surrender our country to this. Right? We can do better. We can continue.
So is Labour the enemy then? You're surrendering to an enemy, is that right? What do you mean by the word surrender?
I get that people have frustrations. I get that. Last year's has not been easy. I'm not saying we've got everything right. I completely understand that. But this is really important, this election. If Labour are in power, they'll have a blank cheque to do whatever they want. That means put up your taxes. Reverse all the changes I made to get us to net zero in a sensible way. Right? Reverse all the progress we made on illegal migration. Release everyone out on our streets, not on planes. Like, this is the choice facing people. It's really important. I don't want people to sleepwalk into the 4th of July. They should not sleepwalk into this. People have got to wake up to the danger that a Labour government means for our country. I don't want that to happen. That's why I'm fighting so hard.
So Keir Starmer seemed a bit unprepared for the attacks, the way you were going after him a bit, getting in his face. Why was that? What do you think that was? I mean,
it's a question for him, right? But I'm clear about what I want to do, and this is what I keep saying about him. This is a guy who can't tell you what he wants to do if he's Prime Minister. He wants to have the most important job in our country. He can't even tell you what he would do with it. And on any position that he has taken in the last few years, he changes his mind 5 seconds later. That's not leadership. And I could tell you, in the uncertain times that we live in, the things you have to grapple with as Prime Minister, if you don't have the courage of your convictions, right? If you constantly change your mind, if you're not straight with people about what you want to do, you cannot lead, right? And that is the difference between him and me. I'm clear. I get that not everyone is going to agree with me about absolutely everything, but at least you know where I stand. That's what leadership is about, and he just does not display that, and that's what you saw last night.
We're stung by Robert Blackstock, that's a member of the public who asked a question saying you are a pretty mediocre Prime Minister.
Well, I think also, apparently, he gave some comments afterwards to the media saying you couldn't trust a word that Keir Starmer says and that he was going to vote Conservative, I think. But look,
I think he's not decided yet when he told the GB News last night.
The choice for people is vote Conservative, have your taxes cut, have migration dealt with, get to net zero in a sensible way, and crucially, have your pension protected, or the opposite of all of that with the Labour Party, right? If you vote for anyone else, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get higher taxes, our borders aren't going to be secure, we're not going to invest more in our national defence, and for the first time in our country's history, pensioners are going to pay tax on their retirement income, on their pension, right? That is a clear choice for people. If you're a pensioner watching this show, you need to understand that if Keir Starmer is your Prime Minister, the state pension is going to be subject to income tax for the first time in our country's history. A retirement tax is coming, capital R, capital T. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. That's why we're going to institute the Triple Lock Plus, right? That's my desire to help pensioners. Keir Starmer last night couldn't say he'd do the same thing. And again, the choice is clear for everyone.
Wasn't he going to the heart of a problem with you personally, though, that you seem to be good at spreadsheets and good at kind of calculations, but less good at the politics, the raw politics?
Yeah, this is about the type of country you want to build, right? Tax cuts are not about spreadsheets. Tax cuts are about the fact that I believe people work really hard and they should get to keep more of their own hard-earned money. That's the type of country I believe in. That's the values that I believe in. I believe in a country that's aspirational, right? If you work hard and you save so that you can have a better retirement, if you want to buy your own home, I think those are all good things. If you want to set up a business and become self-employed, I think those are all things that the government should be supporting by cutting your taxes on those things so you can keep more of your own money. That's why we want to abolish national insurance for the self-employed. That's why we want to abolish stamp duty effectively for first-time buyers, young couples getting on the housing ladder. It's why we want to support families by expanding child benefit. Like, these are all tax cuts that speak to my values, and my values are about supporting people's hard work, supporting their aspiration.
But Britain's largely shrugging at what you're saying. If you look at the polls, the poll last night from the MRP, from Electoral Calculus, found that you might have as few as 60 MPs next week. I know you'll say the only poll that matters is next Thursday. Don't say it, please don't say it. But, you know, you've gifted Labour a supermajority by going early on the election campaign.
Yeah, the only poll that does matter is on the 4th of July, right? But what I'd say is, look, if those polls that you're talking about, right, end up happening on polling day, that means handing Labour a blank cheque. Blank cheque. You can't get it back. But I'd say to everyone watching that those polls aren't destiny. Right? People watching can make the difference.
And you can turn around a 20 point lead for the Labour in a week.
There's other research that just shows it's something like 150,000 voters in key places will make the difference. Those are people that will be watching, right? If you're watching this show right now, you can make the difference. I get people's frustrations with me, with the party. We haven't got everything right. I know that. We haven't made as much progress as we would have liked. But this is an important election about your future. You do not want Labour in charge with that blank cheque to do what they want to your family finances. Go out there, vote Conservative, so we can stop that from happening.
Have you regretted for a single moment going early? You could have waited until November. We all thought you were waiting until November. Net migration will come down in September. You may have 2 interest rate cuts. Might say growing economy, other factors. The NATO summit, you'll look great in Washington, 2.5% GDP. Blenheim summit at the EU. All these things you've given away.
No, we have all those things. The economy growing faster than all our major competitors.
Why not bank them and then go to the
inflation back to target, right? Wages rising faster than prices, right? Mortgage rates starting to come down, right? We have the foundations, and we're already starting to cut people's taxes.
Gamble the house.
So this is the moment for our country to choose its future.
Yeah.
And the future that I want people to have is one where their taxes continue to be cut. I don't want them subject to Labour's thousands of pounds worth of tax rises that are coming everyone's way. Mark my words. Your pension, your home, your council tax, your car, you name it, Labour are going to tax it. It's in their DNA. Keir Starmer is not being straight with people about that. Their taxes are going to go up if he's in power. You talk about the NATO summit. Again, clear contrast here, right? If I'm everyone's Prime Minister, I go to that NATO summit, increasing our defence spending to 2.5% of GDP, because this is the most dangerous time our country has faced in decades. We need to keep people safe. We need to get our allies to invest more. Keir Starmer's your Prime Minister. He goes to that NATO summit. What's the first thing he's done? Cut defence spending.
Well, he's not matching. He wants to get there. He won't say when or how.
He's not matching our pledge. That means defence spending is going to go down from the plans that we've got in place, which are already happening with more money going into the armed forces. It's going to be at the back of the room. Right, what does that do? What message does that send to our adversaries, to China, to North Korea, to Russia, Iran? Here's a new Prime Minister who says, no, I don't think it's important to invest more in our country's defence. I am deeply worried about what that means. People should be deeply concerned.
But Lord Cameron was recorded maybe by Russians or somebody saying that Labour will be as keen on backing Ukraine as the Tories have been.
Well, look, as we've seen, one person then, and Labour have supported what we're doing on Ukraine, where we have led, but they won't be able to continue doing it at the levels that I have said that we will, because they're not investing more in our defence.
How's the polling in your own seat? Will you lose your seat next week?
No, of course I'm fighting very hard everywhere.
MRP say you'll
again, like it's a great privilege to be Member of Parliament, or have been the Member of Parliament for Richmond, and now Richmond and Northallerton, as the seat is called in North Yorkshire. I very much hope I have the opportunity to continue doing that, right? And as I was out campaigning just the other day, and I'll be back there as well, and my family are all out there campaigning.
Charter's out there. Okay.
They are, as they always are. My parents are there, as they are there every election. Okay. So they're all at it.
This betting row has cut through. I've got to ask you about it. How did it feel to you when your friend Craig Williams admitted putting a bet on?
No, I was incredibly angry. Yeah. I was incredibly angry.
He's a friend of yours, right? An ally of yours.
When I learned about all of this, I was furious. Like everyone would be furious. The idea that people would do something like that is just the antithesis of what public service is all about, right? That's why I was so angry. And that's why we initiated our own internal inquiries alongside the independent gambling commission investigation that is happening. And that's why I've taken action. And when we reached a point where we had the information, we acted. And I've suspended the 2 parliamentary candidates, and I've also been crystal clear. And if someone has broken the rules, not only should they face the full force of the law and the consequences of that, I will make sure that they are booted out of the Conservative Party.
And there's no further candidates affected. There's rumours of 15, as many as 15.
Yeah, look,
as far as you know.
I'm not aware of that. And as I said, when we are made aware of things, we will initiate our own internal inquiries. I don't obviously have details of the Gambling Commission's inquiries. They don't report to me. They're rightly and necessary.
But you're doing an internal inquiry with the party.
That's the right and proper thing to do, right?
So your internal investigations have found no other cases so far?
As I said, I'm not aware of any. When we are made aware, we will conduct, as we have done, and I've acted, right? I've dealt with it. We've got the information, we've suspended the candidates, and I'm crystal clear. That's my approach to these things, to do things properly and rigorously. But where there's reason to believe that something is inappropriate, I will take action, as I've done. We've suspended these candidates, and everyone who's broken the law should face the full consequences.
Does the row neatly summarise for some people, maybe in Labour says so, that you've forgotten the privilege of being in office, that people take it for granted. They're taking punts on information they hear internally, allegedly.
Yeah, well, look, let me tell you why I'm in this, right? My grandparents were very fortunate to be able to come to this country with not very much. 2 generations later, I'm sitting here with you, as I have done many times, with the enormous privilege of being this country's Prime Minister and also, before the election, Member of Parliament in North Yorkshire. And it's hard to express for me, just what a debt of gratitude I owe to our country and how I feel about it. And that's why I love our country so deeply, what it's done for my family. I don't think my story would be possible in any other country. And that's why I'm in this, because of what this country's done for me. And I feel an enormous sense of gratitude and duty to do everything I can in this job to make as many people's lives better as I can. And that is why I'm fighting so hard in this election. And yes, as you said, look, it's tough and all the rest of it, but I believe that this election is so important for people's futures. I don't want them to allow their frustrations with some of the things from the past, let them sleepwalk,
and the present,
and let them sleepwalk into something that is going to be so damaging for their family's financial security.
Is it time to ban?
And that is the choice.
Yeah. Is it time to ban politicians from betting on politics, like footballers can't bet on football?
When people are cheating at gambling, it is illegal. We have laws against that. The Gambling Commission investigate people who they suspect of doing that, and they should do that. And people who cheat at gambling should face the full consequences of the law.
Just looking at policies briefly, on 2 quick policies. On tax, do you worry, though, that part of the problems with maybe on tax is things you said in 2019 you haven't delivered? Back in 2019, you were elected on a pledge not only to freeze taxes but to cut them too. Now, you've cut national insurance, but you've frozen those thresholds, so doctors and nurses pay more in tax. So you say one thing and you do something else, and that's why you maybe got a problem with connecting with people.
No, look, I think everyone recognises we had a pandemic.
Yeah.
Right, and then we had a war in Ukraine, drove over everyone's energy bills. It was right that we supported the country through that, the NHS, furlough, help with energy bills, and it's entirely reasonable, and I was straight about it at the time, we would have to start paying that back, because that's the sensible thing to do. Might be difficult for people to hear, but that's the type of leader I am. I want to be straight with people about the things that are right for our country, but we are now cutting people's taxes. And actually, if you look at the taxes that someone in work is paying today, it is lower. With all the changes we've made, they're paying less tax than they would have done in 2019, right? So it is lower, right? So that is just the reality. When you put all those things together, they're paying hundreds of pounds less tax than they would, right? Because of the cuts that we're now making to national insurance in particular, worth £900 for everyone in work this year.
Big issue for Jimmy's viewers is immigration. Back in 2019, you said you'd fix the immigration system. There'll be fewer lower skilled migrants and overall numbers will come down. They haven't. Have they? And you're having an election based on trust and what you'll do in the future. Yeah. You haven't cut migration.
Well, I've been Prime Minister for 18 months, Chris. And
your party, forgive me, your party.
Okay, but I've been Prime Minister. Immigration was too high. Not going to pretend otherwise. Of course it was too high. I've been very clear about that. I've been your Prime Minister, everyone's Prime Minister for 18 months. In that time, we've taken significant action. Yeah. Net migration was down last year, the first full year I was in office. And this year, thanks to the reforms that I've put in place, the number of visas we've issued is down by 30%. That has never happened. So, for example, we've raised the salary that you have to earn to come here to work to 38.5 grand, tightened up our other visas, 30% down. And do you know what it's forecast to come down by? It's forecast net migration to halve in the next 12 months. Halve, right? Because of the measures that I have taken, we are getting migration down and we will go further. If I'm re-elected, we will have a legal cap voted on in Parliament every year
What
to
is that count?
guarantee. Well, that's for parliamentarians.
Tens of thousands, is that even realistic anymore?
But given all the trust that people have on this, the first thing is to deliver what is forecast, which is to halve it. And just like I said, I would halve inflation. We over-delivered on that. First, we're going to halve net migration, and then we're going to reduce it every year thanks to a legal cap on migration. Now, again, the choice for everyone is me or Keir Starmer. I'm the person that's got the number of visas issued down 30% this year. I'm the person where the forecasts show net migration is going to halve. I'm the person that will give you a legal cap on migration, voted on in Parliament every year, to guarantee that it keeps falling. Keir Starmer was someone who, when he stood for the Labour leadership, wrote a letter. Right? In that letter, he promised to defend free movement of people. He said we should close the detention centres for illegal migrants, we should close them down. He boasted about getting migrants more welfare, right? And that's why you simply can't trust him on this issue. Okay. Do not surrender our borders to the Labour
Illegal
Party.
numbers, 50,000 on your watch. Illegal arrivals.
Well, actually, if you look at the last 12 months, they're down on the 12 months before that, the full year before.
Depends how you cut it, but 50,000 is a lot.
But they are down, right? And we have made progress. But the job is not done. In order to get the job done, you need a deterrent. You need to make it crystal clear to people if they come here illegally, they won't be able to stay, they'll be removed. Now, you've seen in the last week, talk to the illegal migrants in Calais themselves. What are they all saying? They're all saying, look, I'm not going to come right now. I'm waiting for this Rwanda screen to be scrapped if the other lot get in, right? As I said, they are queuing up in Calais, waiting for a Labour government. And as I said the other night, if Labour win, the people smugglers and the criminal gangs are going to need a bigger boat. Do not surrender our borders to Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. I asked him multiple times. He can't tell you what he's going to do with illegal migrants. I can. They're on planes and they're out of
Just looking at Reform UK, you have surrendered some of your supporters to Reform UK. Why is Nigel Farage seen as the answer to so many of your problems in the party by some on the right?
Well, what Nigel Farage said about Putin was completely wrong. Plays into Putin's hands. Putin is someone who has deployed nerve agents on the streets of Britain just the other day, doing deals with North Korea, right? And that kind of appeasement is so damaging to our security and the security of our allies, and it only emboldens Putin further.
But you said that you're a broad church and he could join your party to us last October. Is that the case still?
I said what he said on Putin is completely
You wouldn't allow him in now as a member, would you?
He's standing against the Conservatives at this election. But what I'd say to everyone, right? I'd say to everyone who's Conservative oriented, right? If you want your taxes cut, if you want migration dealt with, if you want a sensible approach to net zero, if you want your pension protected, I'm going to deliver that for you. If you vote for anybody else, you are just going to put... You might not like this, right? And I get that you might think that's unfair, but if you vote for anyone else, you are just going to put Keir Starmer in number 10. You're going to get the precise opposite of what you want, because your taxes are going up. We're going to become the soft touch of Europe when it comes to migration. It's going to reverse all my changes to net zero, and your pension is not going to get protected. It's going to get taxed, and we're going to invest less in our national defence. So if you don't vote Conservative, that is what you were going to get.
When you came back from the D-Day set of commemorations, he says that you weren't patriotic, you don't care about our history, our culture. What did you think about that remark about you personally?
Yeah, look, he should answer what he means by that. But I'm
wasn't it Indian heritage he was talking about, was it?
Well, again, it's up for him to answer what he meant. But I am deeply proud to be British. I'm so proud and thankful for everything that this country has done for me and my family, as we've been talking about. And that's why I do this job. Right? I do this job because of what this country has done for me and my family, and I want to make a difference to people's lives. I love this country, right? And no one should ever question that.
And just finally, your message for GB News viewers. They're watching this interview here. They're worried about immigration, the content, the economy around. I mean, can't Labour do that as well? Are Labour offering a more convincing case now than they have done in recent elections?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that the Labour-run Welsh Parliament have banned GB News, right? So that tells you what they think about GB News and GB News viewers, right? I've come and done GB News People's Forum to talk directly to your viewers, because I respect them and I want to make sure that they know I'm addressing their concerns. And I'll just say this, right? I get that people are frustrated with my party, with me. It's been a difficult few years with COVID, the war in Ukraine. We haven't got everything right. We haven't made as much progress as we would have liked in some areas. But this is not a by-election. Your vote can make a difference. This is a choice about our country's future and the impact it will have on your family finances. Do not give Labour a blank cheque to do what they want. Do not surrender to them. If you do not vote Conservative, your taxes are going up. We will become the soft touch of Europe when it comes to migration. The net zero reforms that I put in place will be reversed. We will invest less in our defence. Your pension will be taxed. Right? That's what's going to happen if you don't vote Conservative. Right? So vote for Conservatives. That's why I can keep cutting your taxes, invest more in our defence, strengthen our borders, protect your pension, and get us to net zero in a sensible way.
Thank you for joining us today on GB News. Thanks
very much for having me.